Okay. Potentially, we are live. I have to check. I've redone my OBS, so I don't know whether I am currently live or not. Okay, we're currently live. Okay, this is good. This is good. I don't have to have another window open to see all of my shit. Let's set up one more thing. Okay. Yeah, for a while I was simulcasting to YouTube and Twitch, and I was going like half through the OBS, um, like half through the OBS interface and half through ta-da, half through what do you call it? You call it something. Half through the OBS interface and half through the stream managers on the sites, and this is better. I wasn't getting any views on Twitch. I was like kind of expecting that Twitch was going to be the place to be in general, but no, I think it's going to be easier for me to get traction on YouTube than on Twitch. Uh, I'd like to do both eventually because it seems as though hey, hold on, let's get some music going. Yep, there we go. Uh, Alrighty, I missed this. It's been a while. I have not been on for a little bit. Just like when you're somebody with like less than 1,000 subs who makes no money on YouTube, streaming comes and goes. Other things come up in your life and you got to deal with them. I have had so much chaos over the past like 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Month. It's been a month. Has it been a month? I think it's been a month. I don't know how time works. Anyway. Let's rip off the band-aid. Let's show what I'm actually going to be working on, because I actually did a little bit of work off stream. But bam, look at that. Art. Full frontal art. I mean, it is full frontal. You can see her full front, but it's, you know what I mean. Okay? Jeez. But yeah, no. I did this just based off a sketch I did. I did a sketch and it was like, oh, let me make this do a full thing. And so now we're doing this. Yeah, you missed the fun part of making the actual figure. Now you just get to see me make the background. It's okay though. But yeah, no. I'm getting back into this now. Hopefully gonna get back to doing it regularly. But yeah, no, like, the past 2 fucking weeks have been hectic. Like, I can't talk about details too much because there's elements of my life that I'm trying to keep isolated from this. It'll come in. I'll talk about it eventually. I'll talk about it, I'll involve this in that, probably, eventually. But it's like, I gotta do things strategically, you know what I mean? I'm not just gonna willy-nilly caterwaul about other elements of my life that have nothing to do right now with, like, this stream or my channel, you know? Yeah, so... Anyway, we're using the symmetry tool, folks. You get to see this Photoshop's famous... It's not famous. Symmetry tool in action. There. You have now seen Photoshop's famous symmetry tool in action. You can die happy. No, the symmetry tool is nice. I need to switch pins. So, with this background, it's going to be more difficult than I thought. I want some weight of lines, but I want there to be a difference in the weight, if that makes sense, of the background versus the foreground of the image. I need to block this out with color first before I do the lines. That's going to make it easier. Alright. So, to explain this scene, I have this little scene I'm drawing. I have no idea who this is or what their deal is. I have no idea where they are. However, at any point, I could simply make that up. That's how creativity works, folks. But this is kind of like, yeah, this is kind of the background radiation of my art. Smartly dressed women with weapons. Make of it what you will, honestly. That's like not an intentional, like, thing that I've, like, fallen into. Like, I didn't set out to have this kind of thing be, like, 80% of what I draw. Or at least what I, like, finish into, like, a finished work. But it is, though. Like, it just is. Let's go sharp for the, color blocking. So you didn't get to see it, but I've mentioned that I typically do what I'm calling color blocking, because it probably has a proper name, but I don't know what it is. Where I do the sketch, and then instead of doing the line art first, which I'd been doing previously, even though that's fucking caused me no lack of consternation, I'm going in with a color, right? I'm blocking out forms with their color, and then going in and doing the lines on top of that, refining the color as I go. Notably, I did not do that for this character, because I had something that I was tracing previously. I could have. Next time I do this workflow, I will, but I did not this time, because what I was working from... Let me just do some things. Oh my god, things. I could just put you on top. What am I doing? Bam. Hold on. Bam. Sketch. That's what I worked from. This is from my sketchbook, which you will never see! It's a secret. You're not allowed. But you can see this drawing, though, that I did. Yeah. So, yeah, you can see, yeah, refined the pose a little bit, made the pants even wider, added detail to the vest, added some fixins to the vest. Oh, no, the fixins are already on the vest. You know what I mean. Yeah. Just realized it needs to add some shadows to the belt. It needs to add some shadows here. Screw it, I'm gonna make a note of that. Did you know you can make notes in Photoshop? It's really, really handy. Note. Bam. You can't see the note, but it's there. Add detail to the belt. Yeah, idjit. I call myself an idjit, don't worry about it. Alright. Do I like this color? No, I don't. We're gonna replace it. That's the nice thing about this color blocking. We can really afford to be just really loosey-goosey with it, and really loosey-goosey with it. Don't worry about bleeding. Don't worry about this weird... Yeah, you see that pixelation you get around the edges of the line? Yeah, that's what happens when I use this, like, weird ink crayon thing that I use. But yeah, don't worry about it, folks. I need another building, like, right here. Let's continue color blocking for now. We might come back to that. I'm gonna... The notes are stacking up, folks. Maybe add another building. Another building. Thank you. Thank you. My own hands. They're betraying me. Alright. So now we got 2 nuts. The madness begins. Let me just make sure something real quick. There we go. That's more like it. Had to make a slight adjustment to the music. Let's make another slight adjustment. Alright. So. Yeah, that's where we want it. That should sound good on the mix. No, I didn't mean to do that. Oh no, my entire piece is ruined. I mentioned before that, like, the sound mixing is still new to me, so I gotta go back. I always say that I'm gonna go back and check again. Nope, we're not doing this color. We're not doing this color. Fuck you. We need a nice light gray. It's only slightly darker than... Fuck. It's only slightly darker than this. Only slightly. Only slightly, and just a little bit red. Subtle differences. Just like, yeah, that's... We'll make it a little bit lighter, but let's just get an area going so we can geofill it. All right. There we go. Downside, you can barely tell the difference. Upside, everything else. All right. Yeah, you can tell the difference a little bit. It's hard to see the line between these two colors, but that's not an unforgivable sin here. We want the background to not draw attention away from the figure. So that's going to be, in this case, being really washed out for the colors, except for the green of the trees, maybe? Yeah, the green of the trees, because that's going to frame her head nicely. That's what that's going to do. It'll be a nice complement to the green of that jacket. All right, look at that. Did I mess up here somewhere? I could see it way better over here than I can over there. I did mess up. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah, I know what I did. When I use the fill tool, it is close enough that it spilled over. So we filled in the lines on one side, but not on the other. Excuse me. The challenges of digital art, folks. All right. I'm going to briefly return to the lines because there's a little bit of more development I got to do. Wrong. Right. Okay. I have to do a little bit more development up here. Add in that last building that I wanted to add. The idea is this one's further away. And up, so. Are we good? I think we're... Yeah, we're gonna move you a little bit. I'm going to move you. So, yeah. I do get a little bit of enjoyment out of rendering grass like this. I say rendering, I barely render. I'm cel shading over here, folks. But, and I don't know, so this is a void in here behind the branches. It wouldn't be too distracting if I just made it a solid color, but I want to put in a little bit of indication of something beyond. Put in a sidewalk. There's a building back here, that's the idea. Like a low building. It's made of bricks. So yeah, we just got a simple brick building back here. And then, okay, that's all the negative space we need to take up before. Apply even more back here. And that completely takes up this space. We'll do the other side in a second. Yeah, I just hate leaving voids. It's something that I've caught myself doing, and I'm trying to avoid it here. So another thing to talk about, I do have a new, like, scripted video coming. I might have talked before about the audio drama, which is also in the works, but that's not what I'm talking about now. I sometimes I'll just have an idea for something, and I'll try to make it, and usually my desire to finish it burns out, like, before I reach the first hurdle even. But this time, I'm pretty freaking close. I could be done with it by the end of, like, next week, because I gotta do sound. I'm, like, mostly done with the picture, but I gotta do sound afterwards, and there's some decisions I gotta make, and I gotta get some stock footage, and But, yeah, no, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming, folks. You can kind of tell I'm just propagating the space with copies of the same thing. Not the worst way to do it. After all, I don't have any other ideas. Pardon me. Anyway. But yeah, I'm excited for the thing that I will be publishing soon. I'm not going to tell you what it is, of course. Why would I do that? I'm just going to indicate that this grass. Did I get the perspective right? You be the judge. I don't think I did. Whatever. So the advantage of the color blocking. I can kind of get a sense of how wonky it's really going to look from there. This'll do. I want a darker green for the grass. It's mostly going to be in shade, but I really want to emphasize that with the color itself. What the hell was I saying? But yeah, so we're going to see once we have the color blocking done how screwed we are with the, let's see, I got a little color in the wrong layer there. Oh no, there's still some of that experimental green that I'm not using. One that wasn't erasing. There we go. Right, Color blocking, how screwed I am with the perspective on those void fillers. I think with all these other major elements, you can see that I'm not exactly relying on perspective too much. Like, for instance, you know, these trees are all relatively on the same plane, the same distance away from us. So, like, there's not a lot of foreshortening going on with them. And these buildings, we don't know how far away they are, really. They're not, we don't see them anchored to the plane. This is, like, faux, there's not really any perspective going on. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of faux perspective. With a little bit of, like, trying to make things smaller as they're further away, and, a little bit of trying to keep in mind things like, you know, how, you know, these trees are a little bit, on a 2D plane, these trees are a little bit higher from each other, but on a 3D plane, it's implied that they are farther away, therefore closer to the horizon, which would be somewhere up here. But this is not, I didn't measure anything out or anything. I could do some perspective drawings if I wanted to. That would be trippy, right? I could do some MC Escher stuff. That would be fun. I might do that for my next piece. Like some MC, like, fucking Escher type geographical weirdness, some Salvador Dali shit, but then have an immaculately dressed woman with a weapon in it, because that's what I do apparently. Yeah, the sidewalk is going to continue here. But, that could be fun. I could experiment with some different design styles. Because I do have a comfort zone with how I dress characters. There's a kind of like aesthetic area I really like of sort of anachronistically merging the antique with the sort of like quiet Futura. Not high-tech, not ostentatious, but modern in a forward-looking way. Where I'm imagining a future that doesn't take itself so seriously, you know? Imagining a future that isn't trying to be the future. Like, the world is a better place, but we still wear Ray-Bans, that kind of thing. At least something that looks like Ray-Bans, you know? We got, like, glass skyscrapers in the background, but sword. That's my vibe here, you know? Why, you know, do we have that? Who cares? Futuristic glass towers, but sword looks cool, okay? That is something that bugs me in a lot of art. I remember there was this TV show called Revolution years ago. Basically, Lost happened, and then years later, Falling Skies happened. And off of that, there was a whole wave. The Walking Dead also happened. And off that, there was a wave of prestige television. A high focus on mystery, a high focus on post-apoc, typically, like, world building of some variety. With the event, it was kind of like alien conspiracy theory world building. With Falling Skies, it's like alien intrigue of like, ooh, what alien do? With the show Revolution, the idea was that there was it was basically post-apocalyptic, but they were being fantasy about it, where there was some sort of electromagnetic dampening field that was preventing the conduction of electricity, like on a global scale. So electricity was essentially knocked out, and everybody was back to doing like medieval shit with modern medieval shit, but with modern cultural stuff mixed in. So, for instance, like a sight gag. And this is, if I was cared about monetization, this would get me demonetized. But like a sight gag of like the characters have oh no, here's one that won't get me demonetized. Like we open up on like the idyllic little, you know, feudal village in this world. Um but instead of like thatched roof houses, they are timber frame McMansions, basically. The implication being that the people building this little village, and they're like, you know, refugees who had to flee the cities when the electricity stopped flowing. The materials that they had available to them were leftover construction materials from the before times, and so they were able to just construct modern American timber frame drywall houses. Sans electricity, but you know they're still able to use the materials. That's an example. And here's the thing that bugs me, right? In this world, they're back to swords and bows and arrows. They're not using guns, even though, especially in the U.S., there's a massive, massive surplus that nobody likes, but everybody has to deal with. Not a militia, because militias are government sanctioned. A paramilitary group, but they call them militia because we don't know what militia means in this country. Pedantry, don't you love it, folks? And the explanation for why everybody is using swords is that in the early days of the energy dampening, no electricity apocalypse, the militia hoarded all of the guns for themselves. So, like, nobody else has any, you know? They're hoarding them all for a future conflict. And what I say to that is bullshit. Like, that's an explanation. You can tell that that's a hand wave, but it's a bad hand wave, okay? Like, what they want is post-apocalypse with dudes fighting with swords, but still with anachronistic, you know, before times things like houses and people still remembering what it is to go to a McDonald's and stuff like that. So they're like, okay, this group is hoarding all the guns. We've done our explanation. Now we can get onto the parts we want to get onto. But no! It's a bad explanation. It's a bad hand wave, okay? Here's a better one. Are you ready? The bullets ran out. Bam. The bullets ran out, and people don't have the supply chains to, like, fucking mine the stuff en masse and get back to where we were. Because in order to make modern guns, it's pretty easy, but you need modern machinery equipment. Otherwise, it's very difficult. There's a lot of parts that go into an AK-47. There's springs, there's gears. Things have to be precisely machined because it's gas operated. And that's just the AK-47 as an example, you know? You have to, if you want to make a modern day weapon, you have to have some pretty precise machining, some pretty precise capabilities, which takes time, which takes money, which takes effort. It's possible to make a modern firearm just in a backyard garage workshop. The Pakistanis do it all the time. However, those guys spent years figuring out how to do it. Excuse me. Spent years figuring out how to do it. And the fact that they can, like, copy, like, Model 1911 pistols down to the brass tacks is a point of massive pride for them, because it was a huge achievement. You know, they had to work in years to develop that ability. In a world without electricity, where people might not be interested in reconstituting the weapons of the old world, because you imply that in the early days there was a lot of fighting between a lot of different paramilitaries, and they exhausted the supply, the stockpiles of ammunition, and since then have been in a no man's land where they're reduced. From a certain perspective, they are reduced to using swords and crossbows, but from another perspective, they like being reduced to using swords and crossbows because it kind of forces a status quo ceasefire between the different people. Uh, I think that's better. I think that's more in line with how people really act. I think that's a more versatile. Um, I think that's a more versatile, uh, natural explanation that just feels more. All of is exhausted except for maybe a few key strategic stockpiles of them will ever, but you know, they're reluctant to use it because nobody has the capability. Nobody's wanted to develop the capability because, you know, the early apocalypse times, it was so freaking horrible. Um, to like use those weapons, to make those weapons. Nobody wants to do that. And also, they can't because they've got other concerns. Like, all of the metalworking is going into making swords and crap because that's what people are using. You know, market forces, not market forces. Human sociological dynamics. Okay. If you have a good, if you, in my opinion, if you're a writer, you don't have to have a sociology degree, but like watch YouTube videos of people that do. You know, watch videos on like history and just the pay attention to the human dynamics of how not just individuals but groups of people react to different conditions and stimuli. You know, how do different types of people in different social roles react to different situations? What are their priorities? What is their internal thought process? And if you do that and you have a handle on that, it becomes a lot easier to world build because you can kind of suss out something that feels natural, something that feels dynamic, and also it just gives you more ideas, right? Like if you know that, for instance, you can have knowledge of how to make modern technology, but there are a lot of instances where like it's still useless because of infrastructure, which can be, for instance, paralyzed by political forces. Suddenly, you don't have to come up with a complicated BS explanation for instance, why people in your sci-fi setting are primarily using horses. You can just put it in a rough terrain and make the government suck. That in real life, that's a situation where people end up riding on horses. You know, like in Afghanistan. You know, Taliban weren't exclusively on horses, but they used a lot of horses. Why? Given the fact that that Afghanistan's infrastructure is for shit, and they are in mountainous terrain, it's the best thing to use. It's the best thing to use. Um, yeah, not great people, the Taliban, but you know, they're still an example of what people do in certain situations because they were people in a certain situation. All right. Tangent. Anyway, what the heck was I talking about before I went on that tangent? But yeah, that show Revolution. Using like those like BS writers' room throw it away reasons. Uh, yeah, don't like it. So for why she's got a sword in this setting, who knows? I think a good explanation is just honestly, uh, one tool you have at your disposal is a social monopoly of force. Um, Monopoly of force is a concept of governance which you kind of need in order to make a government function, where the state and actors that are aligned or act to the benefit of the state have a monopoly on the legitimate use of violence within a society. A legitimate use of violence being one that is not one that you can do, basically. So the police is a good example. The police are part of the government's monopoly of force. The military is part of the government's monopoly of force. But so is your right to self-defense. That's another element of the government's monopoly of force, because when people act in self-defense, they are aligned with the general wishes and desires and functions of the state, because the state ultimately does have to keep people happy in order for those people to, like, you know, not do France 1789 stuff. So, like, the state allowing and even supporting people to, you know, protect themselves against threats helps everybody. But yeah, nevertheless, the court system is the ultimate arbiter of what is and isn't self-defense when it comes up, when there's a dispute about it. Furthermore, and that plays into, like, you know, that serves the government because they can control who has the use of force and who doesn't, and it also benefits the people because they have a lot of say in the court system. Even if we're not talking about juries, just through the general auspice of public opinion and general auspice of the fact that if people don't respect the courts, they're going to stop listening to the court's ruling, and that's bad for everybody, including the government. The government has a impetus to, in most cases, unless other factors come into play, which unfortunately they do, but brass tacks, like 60 to 80% of the time, they will determine a use of force along the lines of how it benefits a general public good. So, self-defense? Yay! Bullying? Nah, you know? Generally speaking, the courts are against extortion and racketeering. However, there are a lot of instances where they end up being pro-extortion and racketeering if the racketeers are flowing money to people in power and not causing enough of a disruption to cause immediate social unrest. There can kind of be a tacit allowance of their activities. There are a lot of interesting ways these things break down. Yeah, I'm sure there's no, I end up talking about modern politics on the stream even if I don't want to. Yeah, but I'm sure there's no application to the modern day for what I'm talking about. I'm just blocking out this color. I'm not going to go with this green. I'm not going to go with this green. Alright, what was I talking about a minute ago? Oh yeah, so legitimate use of force. So reason why she's wielding a sword and not, say, a gun might be that law and order is quite high in the society, and guns are bad. People just don't like guns. There is a... what am I getting at? Here's a theory. Here's an idea for why she's carrying a sword in this setting. Are you ready? This is an idea. This is a society apart from our own where the mass adoption of the gun as a tool in everyday life never happened. In our world, guns became a tool of hunters and a tool of local forces participating in self-defense, even individuals. The result is that the gun became ubiquitous in culture to the point where attempts to completely purge it will ultimately fail, especially in the United States. You're going to have to deal with guns, and so in times of unrest, in times where violence, the monopoly of force of the state breaks down and you have more street violence, the gun is the paradigm you have to prepare for, because they are so accessible, they're so easy to get, even in places where they should be banned, even in countries where they should be banned, guns, right? Oh, that's not true, actually, because the thing is that, like, if you talk about street violence in, like, Europe, even if there was a social collapse, right, and we go beyond, like, French marching in the streets, and we go to, like, you know, the monopoly of force itself breaking down, yeah, there aren't enough guns in circulation for that to become a case. So this is even more plausible than I was making out to be. You don't need a parallel, like, society. You just need it to be not America, right? Oh, that's not true. Weapons smuggling. Yeah, you can tell how freaking paralyzed I am by knowledge here. Yeah, that's too close to the grass. We need something more saturated, more bold, but lighter. That's too bold. That's not helping. That's also... That's okay. You know what we need to do? There we go. I don't know if you can even tell the difference on your monitor. It's not like I could tell the difference on mine, barely. And I have a freaking fancy monitor. Alright, so this should be color correct. Alright. Be a parallel society where the gun became a weapon of war and quickly surpassed the people's ability to manufacture them on a local level. So, this is a world where the standard firearm is a computerized smart gun with programmable ammunition. And the idea of wielding something simpler than that is just not going to be effective if your opponent has the computerized smart gun. The catch-22 of that is that the amount of computerized smart guns in the world is not that big. Armies are relatively small because they're very effective. Because, again, computerized smart guns. When there's a breakdown in society and the monopoly of force weakens, which is what has happened in this case, corporate security, goonery, by that I mean organized crime, street violence, political violence, all of them take the form of medieval weapons, you know? Because that's what's available to people. That's what people can procure, and it's effective against everybody but the people wielding computerized smart guns who aren't in this equation. They're off doing, like, international stuff, you know? They're off fighting other people with computerized smart guns. You don't bring a computerized smart gun to a sword fight. It's a waste of the computerized smart gun. That's my explanation for what we're seeing here. Or at least a theory. I might decide to do something different later, you know? You know a phenomenon I don't understand? I should understand it, but I don't. The phenomenon of OCs. Which, if you're not familiar, OC, it just stands for original character. And so, technically speaking, any character that you create is an OC. So technically speaking, this is an OC, because this is not a fan art of another character. But OCs have a utility within the online art world that, even though I've battered around the edge of it for years and I've absorbed it for years, I still don't understand, right? OCs are also used to describe a character which you kind of... like, especially on YouTube, I see this with a couple of different creators. They'll have, like, original characters that show up in media over and over and over again, that they put in different situations, that they make up whole stories for, especially in the short form. But they don't have a traditional medium that is their home medium, if that makes sense. When I say medium, I mean genre of, like, narrative visual storytelling. With most... before, you had, like, relatively siloed, segmented, methods of content distribution in the old print world. You had your work would be published in a magazine, and it was a comic, or a single-panel cartoon strip, or a short story. These were very categorized, neatly organized categories enforced by the publishing industry. Not just by individual publishers, but by industry standards that were set by inter-business agencies. Agencies? Industry associations, that's the term I'm looking for. But yeah, with the internet, it's kind of more free form, where, like... I'm trying to think of a good character. What's his name? I gotta think of... PM Seymour. That's it. That's it. That's a good example. He has a whole cast of OCs that he, like, created and would feature in his videos and his merch for a long time, but they were not part of his core content making apparatus, which was reading Tumblr posts in dramatic readings of Tumblr posts, and his other core. Yeah, that was his core apparatus. The characters just kind of showed up. They weren't part of that. They were just kind of there. You know, he enjoyed drawing them and he included them. Eventually, they did become part of their own thing, right? Eventually, he did try to do original stuff with those characters that was more narrative. He tried to do kind of like a sort of, I don't know how to describe it other than a visual novel in video form, because that's what it was. Yeah, kind of almost like an audio drama with a visual element. Uh, um, let me stop. But yeah, the characters were not had a public presence before they were they had a public presence before they were linked to that core piece of media. And so the term we have for um, what they are before they get linked to that core piece of media is the term OC, like original character, which is a perfectly good descriptor, but that comes from somewhere. It comes from fandom, right? Fan art, there's a whole world of it online. A lot of people start their careers doing fan art. A lot of people start doing visual art to do fan art, you know, and then they go from there. And in that world, OC becomes a descriptor for an original character that you add to fan art of the media that you're doing. You are distinguishing them from a character that actually exists. But it's become something that's just applied to any character that you create, even if they're absent of any pre-established media or anything that you're going to create. So in that sense, this is an OC, but I'm just not from that culture. I don't think about it in those terms, like at all. I either have infinite OC or no OC, and I don't know which, if I'm being honest. I'm being too fucking autistic about this to be. um, like I'm thinking way too hard about this, but still though, it vexes me. Do I have OC or don't I? I don't know. And I don't want to know. I prefer the mystery remain unsolved. If this suddenly gets a billion views somehow and there are comments being like, yeah, no, that's OC or that's not OC, I don't care. I don't care about what any of y'all boxes y'all try to put this in. It's more fun and kind of funny if I just don't fucking know at all and I'm just like, ah, you know? Just like fucking it's a drawing of a woman with a sword. Is it OC? Is it what is it? Categorize it. No. My categorization is that dude who wouldn't get out of the tank. That's my categorization, okay? That's where I stand on the issue. I have the attitude of that man. Okay? And yeah, I'm gonna stop here. This is a good stopping point. We have most of the colors of the background blocked out. I'm gonna have to adjust the values a little bit more. I like where this is. I'm gonna have to adjust the values a little bit more. We need to make the green. I'm gonna make that note. Main thing we need to do is make the green of the sweater vest really stand out from the green of the background. That's gonna make the background lighter, more washed out. I think it needs to pop. The red helps it pop. The green needs to also pop from the background. Okay. Make sure. And I'm not willing to change the green of the jacket. It's a sweater. It's a vest. Of the vest pops by muting the colors of the BG. Alright, we did it. Note. Third note. Alright, but I'm gonna end this by playing that video. There it is. All right, hang on. What do I need to do here to stream this? I gotta do some fancy shit. Hang on, I gotta do some fancy shit. All right, where is it? Where's that mode? Let's see here. Oh, I know what I could do. I could just do this. This is easier. I forgot about you. You're helpful, buddy.
Arthur, get out of the tank.
You're not my dad.
Get out of the fucking tank. I am your dad.
You're not my dad.
I am your dad. Get out of the fucking tank.
I'm in a tank and you're not.
I will call
I'm literally
tank.
in
Get
a
out the fucking tank.
I'm literally in a tank. You're
Get
not.
out of the
You're not my dad.
Literally get out of the tank.
Tell me it's a militant. I don't give a fuck.
Get out of the fucking tank.
No.
Anyway. Damn it. Damn the fuck. Oh, god damn it. Hang on. Hang on. Properties. Interact. Stop it. Shut up. Sky News Australia. You ruined it. Sky News Australia. You ruined it. Okay. But now that the first video, not the second one, is my attitude towards categorization. Jesus, imagine living in Australia and being a Rupert Murdoch simp. What a sad existence. Fucking go outside and, like, get bitten by a spider or something. Your country has such great things to offer, and you're looking at, like, lefties losing at compilations? Like, what is wrong with you? You live in fucking literally the upside down. Alright, let's do the end transition thing I do. Bam. Okay. Aside from that Sky News clip, it was like, what a fucking downer. That was pretty good. But yeah, no, my attitude towards categorizing my work or attempting to explain it is I'm literally in a tank and you're not. Is this a good attitude to have? No. Is it what I'm going to do mostly because it's funny and because I also kind of want to... I also like the idea of being ambiguous in a way that makes people fight in the comments, not to like flame lord, but to hopefully get people to think more about the categories they interact with and struggle in their own lives with categorizing what they're seeing. Because it doesn't matter with my work. It's a complete... It goes nowhere. You achieve nothing from arguing about it, but it exercises that part of the brain. You know, I want to... This is an aspiration. This is not something I have achieved. It's something I'd like to achieve. I want to be confusing in a way that forces people to be like, I am confused by this thing that enraptures my attention. So I'm going to think about it now. That's what I want. If somebody's like, my old ways of categorizing things don't work here. I need to reconsider them. If that happens, I've done my job, in my opinion. Or I've achieved something more than just entertaining, which I want to entertain, but if I could do more than that, I'll die a happy man. You know what I mean? But anyway, yes, we're done now. We're done. Outro. See, outro? Look at the outro. Okay, done. Bye.